Good evening, everybody. Happy Saturday. Or whatever. Happy Saturday, everybody. Who is ready for the countdown? I am. Yes, we gonna start it. We gonna start this thing all right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Happy Saturday, to say the least. I pray you guys are having a wonderful one. I am trying to get in and out. That's why your girl is early. I know usually I come at 7:30. I pulled it up an hour early because I know it's Saturday and people got ish to do, you know? So not for nothing, we're going to go ahead and get into everything. How are y'all doing? Yeah. Okay. Come on up in here. Make sure you guys like the video. Share the video because we're going to get into some things. Uh-oh. Sorry, y'all. I'm getting everything set up for us. All right. Turn that down and get it going and get everything underway. You know, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in because you don't have to. It's Saturday. You know what I'm saying? It was a decent day today. Saturday before Love Day. Okay, so I get it. Fun fact. My Demi, my daughter, was actually supposed to be born on Valentine's Day. They took her a week early because they were considering me high risk. Fun fact. Yeah, but my baby's supposed to be born on Valentine's Day. Anyways, you guys, happy Saturday. I pray you guys are having a wonderful one. We are about to go ahead and get into everything when it comes to this R.Kelly trial. Look, I'm gonna tell you this now. Warning. Get your ass up off of here if you got a problem with me talking about this case, okay? Because regardless if I talk about it or not, it's happening. His sentencing is fastly approaching us, May 4th, okay? 80 days officially today, okay? So you've been warned, all right? Not for nothing, let's go ahead and get into everything. Okay, welcome to the journey. Okay, where are you tuning in from? Make sure that you please place that in the chat because I am about to get in there or whatever and say hello to y'all because y'all know I love y'all. Okay, so make sure that you let me know where you're coming from so I can shout your city and or state out. Okay, make sure you keep it cute. Okay, that's why I wore this shirt today. Okay, that's why I wore this shirt. All right, keep it cute. Or how about you boot your own self up out of here? Okay. Why would you listen and look at somebody that you don't like? I just don't understand that. I just don't. Okay. But not for nothing. Keep it cute so you won't get the boot. Okay. Now, what that means is that you don't have to agree with what I'm saying. And truth be told, I want to be reading transcripts. So it's not really much that I can put in as personally. Okay. But if you don't agree with the in-between commentary, as long as you profess what you have to say respectfully, you won't get the boot, okay? My moms are fully aware of that. But if you get disrespectful, all right, you're going to boot, scoot, boogie your butt up and out of here, okay? Be blocked and blessed, all right? Not for nothing, if you like to join the greatest show, the link is in the chat. I'll make sure that it's pinned, okay? So make sure that you check that out, okay? Not for nothing, tip the host. Tip the hostess with the most is giving y'all all this information. And we literally have every last transcript that graced the courtroom floor. Every last one we're going to go through detailedly. Okay. That's the reason why I'm starting so early. I know people are like, it's months away. Well, if you want to hear the detailing of everything, I got to start now, okay? And this is going to go all the way up until May, okay? So this is a time for you to get all your ass up out of here, okay? If this is not what you want, okay? I had one commenter say, find some other commentary. Trick, you better look at my channel, baby. I got a substantial amount of all kind of other content. However, this particular content got me in the New York Times, okay? So miss me, all right? Just wanted to put that out there, okay? Now, if this is something that you would like to be supporting, please send me a cash out. I love your super chats. They're wonderful. But, okay, 30% of it goes back to YouTube. So if you want it to come directly to moi, send me a cash out, okay? All right. If you got a tip or something that you would like for me to talk about in regards to this trial or anything going further, send it to reviewswithWhitneyD@gmail.com. Okay. And last but not least, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see all the ways that you can support your girl. Okay. Not for nothing, you guys. Let me go ahead and get into these comments. We're gonna pay some bills, so we're gonna get right into everything because we got a lot to discuss. Okay, Katie came in the building first and foremost, like, what's up? What we doing? What we doing? Okay, what are we? What we doing? I got it, Katie. Girl, the freaks come out at night. The freaks come out at night. No, really, all you gotta do is say, R.Kelly, and they like, what you say? What you say? Who? What? Yeah. Okay, look. Okay, all 2022. I'm on your ass. Don't come on up. Don't come on over here. Eric says, so want to get in on the pew pew. All right, get in, honey. Get in. Hey, Kamiko, what's up, baby girl? She said hello again. Hey, girl. Hey, sorry I missed y'all on the viewing. The schedule. Baby, I was out shopping with my mom. She took me to this place called Dirt Cheap. That's another story in itself. Okay, it was so fun. It was so much cheap stuff in there. It was crazy. But yes, like my girl said, fair use. Okay, these materials is protected by fair use clause. Okay, of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowing the rebroadcast of copywritten materials for the purpose of commentary, entertainment, and education. Now, these actually are going to be direct transcripts from the court. Okay, so I'm not grabbing it from anyone's channel, but this is to protect my, okay, you know, people out here losing stuff, and I ain't got time. Okay, so yeah. Okay, all right. Hey, Chocolate City. Hello, everyone. Hello, Shawty. Hey, honey, what's good, everyone? What's gooey? All right, I think that's everyone. That says, good evening, Whitney DTB. How's everyone doing tonight? Fine, I hope I am. How are you doing? I'm good. I'm excited. I'm fully rested. I got my good old cup of Kool-Aid, and you know, I'm feeling good. Okay, it's filled up to the rim. Okay, so that's the reason why I was holding it. Hey, Isha. Hey, honey bunches of oats. Hey, Cher. Hey, she said, hey, hi, Whitney. My son actually was born on B-Day. Oh, yeah, my baby girl that was her due date. And every doctor we went to, Valentine's Day, it kept coming up Valentine's Day. And they took her early, buttholes. And so they induced me on the 7th. I had her on the 8th. I was in labor for 28 hours with them. Chow. Okay. I think that's everybody. Okay. All right. Okay. I think that's everybody. So good evening. As people are coming in, let them know what's going on, what we're talking about. I'm going to try to pace myself and let you guys know before we get into anything ahead of time, so you'll know what we're going to be talking about. Okay. Shouts out to Kool-Aid, although I'm not a brand affiliate or ambassador, but y'all know that's what we don't sip on tea nor wine. We drink Kool-Aid over here because we're down to earth. Okay, and our cup is always good because I make it. Okay. So not for nothing, this is watermelon and lemonade, 2.5 cups of sugar. You'll thank me later. Right before diabetes break in, but you know, it gets your engine running, okay? But yes, that's what's in my cup, okay? I'm gonna be a little parched with all this reading, all right? Not for nothing, shouts out to Shay Michelle Cosmetics for this beat that's on my face, okay? And then Shazazz Creations is the official merch designer of WhitneyD TV. Keep it cute or get the boot. And if you want the look, go ahead, get in the description box down below. You'll find both of these brand affiliates and discounts as well. Okay, so you know, gotta pay your bills, okay? But anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. So here's the thing, okay? Y'all know here at WhitneyD TV, we are about evidence over emotions.
What up, Witness Nation? Now you know we're super sleuths over here. We all about the facts, evidence over emotions. Let's see what we've discovered.
And with that being said, you guys know we don't play all the emotional stuff. We don't really care too ish about R.Kelly, you know, and what he got going on and what happened to him back in 1919. We are about evidence, okay? And now, furthermore, we will hold the alleged victims accountable. Well, in this case, the victims accountable for any craziness that come across the pulpit. Y'all know I was all up on what's her name? Holly. I was like, girl, she was egging me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. When I was reading her transcript, I was like, chick. But in regards to everything, what we identify over here at WhitneyD TV is that regardless of if they were sluts, homosexuals, if they were bad children, that has nothing to do with the neglect and the abuse and the disrespect that they got served under the leadership, under the guidance of R.Kelly. Okay, that's just period. That's not no, that's not neither here nor there. So the thing is that that's how we look and that's how we handle this case. As you guys all know, okay, he was convicted last year. Okay, and so now we're on the road to sentencing. Okay. And so this, I want to say this afternoon, I released a first part of this series that I'm about to start. Okay. It's going to be weekly. I'm not quite sure how often I will come. It's not going to be a repetitive thing, meaning it's going to be back to back every day. Because to be honest with you, I'm only reading the highlights from the transcripts. It's too much. A lot of these transcripts are 200, 300 pages long. And me reading them by myself, it's not going to, we're going to be all day reading probably one day of a transcript, okay? So I'm fully aware of each and every one of the transcripts, what took place and everything. So we're going to read highlights from each transcript, okay? And we're going to have a dialogue, and we're going to talk about this road and how we got to where we're going to be on May 4th with this case, okay? Now, a lot of the stuff, material you guys probably have heard already. That's great. But I do have a lot of people, and I mean it. You can check the comments. Oh, no, that wasn't said. That didn't happen. This, that, the third. So this is the reason why we read, okay? Here at Whitney D, we're also educated, okay? My subscribers are no dummies, okay? We be like, no, and I'll be seeing y'all. I love y'all. Y'all be checking people in the comments. No, yes, he did say that. No. Yeah, I love y'all. We right here. We two peas in a freaking pod, okay? So with that being said, this is no different. On tonight, we're going to be getting into it, okay? Now, for those that were not able to see the first part of it, I'm going to get into the video, and it's really, well, actually, no, I'm not going to. Let me stop lying. We're going to go ahead and get into the read, okay? Catch yourself up, all right? I'm going to try to do my best to give you guys like an insert to give you caught up before we get into the next phase or whatever, next day. But you're going to have to catch up, all right? They're going to be in the playlist that I'm going to create for this particular series, so it can be easy for you to catch up, okay? But not for nothing. The first, I'm not going to say day one, but technically it's the day one of getting everything underway for his trial was jury selections. They selected the jury. Some people didn't know who he was. Find it hard, but whatever, okay? So you had some of the juries not really know who they were. You had some that just couldn't deal with it because they were going to be triggered and uncertain. But as we know, they found the jury, okay? Because we won't be here if they didn't. They found the jury, and you can look at the first episode to see how that happened, okay? But we're going to go ahead and get into the first day of transcript reading, which is the opening statements, and we're going to start with the defense, okay? Now, when I come back this week, probably Monday, probably Tuesday or whatever, we're going to get into I want to say I don't know, depending on how long these transcripts reading are, because we're going to have a cutoff, baby. We're going to cut this off. It may be a split, but we'll talk about that later. I'll set everything nicely in order for you guys as we transpire. But this is the opening. We're going to read the opening statements, period. This is what we're reading on tonight, okay? So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Y'all know I'm not going to be taking that long or whatever. This is the road to sentencing for R.Kelly. All right, you guys, welcome back. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this read or whatever. Okay, so I will not be on the screen. Okay, I want you guys to be able to read along and aloud with Whitney D. Okay, so y'all already know with reading over here with me. Okay, your girl might be doing some fumbles, some stumbles, some crumbles. Okay, but you know that you're more than welcome to read it on your own, okay? Because I'm doing the best I can. Now I'm just playing. No, but I am going to be reading this, and I've shared this with you guys before. Growing up, I had a speech impediment. I don't really care to go into details because I don't want you to cry for me, Argentina. But it does kind of come in and out as it go. I even have my own mama be like, "You need to read over there." I'm like, "Mama, I do." But I still kind of struggle with interpretation of words or getting words out. So with that being said,
butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high.
Nope, this ain't it. You are tuned into a realistic, unprofessional perspective reading of this book. So that means stumbles, fumbles, and sometimes an occasional mispronunciation of words. So if you are looking for the audible, this book, go buy it yourself. Or feel free to mute me and read on your own. Otherwise, sit back and be grateful. You are tuned into a live reading with Whitney D.
Now, of course, this is not a book, okay? However, it applies the same way with these transcripts, okay? Be grateful. As you guys have came to realize and hear that these transcripts are expensive, okay? And this is very time consuming, taken away from my life. But yes, I choose to do this, but be grateful because you can do this on your own. All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into day one, okay? And this is the opening, the proceedings, okay? I highlighted a few reads, but we're going to be bouncing around, like I said. But when I get to reading that particular area, we're going to read that particular area, okay? So we're going to start from page 8 in the transcripts, which is the court, Judge John Lee, welcoming everybody, okay? So let's go ahead and get into it. We are about to begin the trial in the criminal case for which you were all selected as jurors. I am going to give you some preliminary instructions and also give you an overall overview of what will happen during the course of the trial. Your job as jurors is to administer justice in this case according to the law and according to the evidence. Okay, let me run that back. Rewind. Their job as jurors is to administer justice in the case according to the law. Not no feelings, but evidence over emotions. Okay? To the law and according to the evidence. Okay? The evidence. Not what hearsay, not what you believe, but what they saw that was tangible before them. And oh, yes, we're going to get into that. It was evidence. Let's continue. You must carry out your duties as jurors with complete fairness and impartiality. Okay, impartiality, and without bias. Okay, and as we know, everybody want to say, people are being biased towards it. Like I said, I couldn't be a juror. I couldn't. Okay, I couldn't. All right, I'm biased. I know. Yeah. Okay, where was I at? Or sympathy for either side, either for or against the government or for or against the defendant. I am going to give you a summary of charges again. This is just a summary of the charges. It is not evidence. Okay. The defendant, Robert Sylvester Kelly, is charged with racketeering in violation of the Title 18 United States Code Section 1962C and 1963. And remember, you guys, we actually heard that title in the whole cheer dude, Jerry Harrison. I knew it was kind of similar. For his alleged role as a leader of an enterprise, he is alleged to have engaged in racketeering acts that include bribery, sexual exploitation of a child, kidnapping, transportation of minors, and other people for the purpose of engaging in illegal sexual activity, illegal coercion, and enticement of individuals and forced labor. Mr. Kelly is also charged with violations of the Mann Act, including the transportation of individuals, including a minor, for the purpose of engaging in illegal sexual activity and illegal coercion and enticement of individuals individuals, including a minor, in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 2421A, 2422A, and B, and 2423A. Mr. Kelly has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. It is the government's burden to prove Mr. Kelly's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt with respect to each charge. As I told you, when you were selected as jurors, the indictment is the document that brings the case to court, but it is just an accusation. It is not evidence of anything. The government has the burden of proving, as I just said, each of the essential elements of each crime that's charged beyond a reasonable doubt. The purpose of this trial. Lord, I ain't got time for this. Come on now. Where my letters go? What we doing? Okay, let me see if I can just do it. What happened? Can I see a little? I can see a little bit of it, but golly, what happened? See, that's the devil. It's all, the devil is alive. What are we doing? Let me reopen this. I'm not gonna play with this. I'm not gonna play with this. Hold on, y'all. Let me come back on this screen. The devil is a lie, y'all. This was not doing this at first. What little fan done put hoodoo voodoo on my stuff? Y'all leave my stuff alone. Okay, let me reopen this. Stop it. Thank goodness I wrote all my stuff down. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I'm not finna play with the devil. Don't be getting mad because we finna go through this rigmarole. All right, there we go. I wrote my little notes down, thank goodness, so I know where to stop. Anyways, okay. Let's go on. Let's continue. My bad, y'all. This is just a summary of the charges. It is not evidence. The defendant, Robert Sylvester Kelly, is charged with racketeering in the violation. I already did that. Yeah. Okay. I was on page 10. My bad. Let me start from 9 though. The government has the burden of providing, as I just said, each of the essential elements of each crime that's charged beyond a reasonable doubt. The purpose of the trial is to determine whether the government has met this burden. A defendant is a criminal case does not, a defendant in a criminal case does not have to prove innocence. On the contrary, the defendant is presumed to be innocent of the charges in the indictment. One of your jobs as jurors is going to be to determine what the facts are based on the evidence. You, as jurors, are the sole judge of these facts. You will then have to apply to those facts the law as I will give it to you. And you must follow that law, regardless of whether you believe in it or not. Do you hear that? Okay? So regardless if that don't sound right, okay? Ain't that funny? Ain't that what's going on with the people on the other side? Wasn't they trying to protest to change the man? It is what it is, regardless if you like it or not. If you break it, you buy. Let's continue. Because I am the judge of the law, I will make legal rulings, including on objections, or I may direct the lawyers to move along so we can keep the case rolling. Do not assume that because I make a ruling that I have some opinion about the case or about what your verdict should be. I don't have any such opinion. Sometimes during the course of an examination, I will ask a question of a witness. If I do that, it's either because I don't understand a particular question or because I think somebody needs to be clarified for you. Again, don't assume that just because I ask a question that there is some importance to it or that I have an opinion about the case. As judges or the facts, as judges of the facts, you will listen to the evidence. The evidence consists of the testimony of witnesses or direct examination and cross-examination documents and other exhibits that come into evidence and any facts on which the lawyers agree. These are called stipulations. There are other things that are not evidence, and you may not consider them. What any lawyer says during the course of trial, whether it's in opening statement or if it's in an objection or if it's in some summation, is not evidence. With respect to objections, lawyers do have an obligation to make objections if they think there is a reason to object. Do not hold it against lawyers if they do object. That's part of their job. If I sustain an objection, it means that I have determined that the question is not a valid one and you should ignore the question. If I overrule it, that means I have determined that the question is proper. Sometimes a witness will answer a question even though I have sustained an objection. If that happens, I will just instruct you to disregard the answer. Another thing that is not evidence is anything that you have heard outside of the courtroom or seen outside of the courtroom. You must decide this case only on the evidence that is present here during the trial. Okay? As I told you during jury selection, there will undoubtedly be press coverage of this case. You must not read, watch, or listen to any reports in any form about this case. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get into the openings, okay? I just wanted to read that particular part so we can further understand how they maneuvered in this case, okay? And that was very important to read the opening in regards to the judge and her inserts because a lot of people felt like, YouTube played a part in this and that, and people on the outside. To be honest with you, if so, that was illegal for them to even be paying attention to any of that. Okay, any component when it comes to the case, period. Okay, but let's go ahead and scroll down to get into these opening statements. Okay. All right, as you guys see, okay, let me take myself out. Okay, as you guys see, these are the opening remarks from the government, meaning from the feds, okay? They started the opening side, and that's because this is their case, okay? They going first, all right? So let's get into what the government had to say, okay? Ms. Melendez, this case is about a predator, a man who for decades, hold on, let me get on the screen, baby, because I want y'all to feel this. This case is about a predator, a man who for decades used his fame, his popularity, and the network of people at his disposal to target, groom, and exploit girls, boys, and young women for his own sexual gratification. A man who used lies, manipulation, threats, and physical abuse to dominate his victims and to avoid accountability for years, using his money, his clout, and his public persona to hide his crimes in plain sight. That man, that predator, is the defendant Robert Sylvester Kelly, more commonly known as R. Kelly. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria Cruz Melendez, and I am an assistant United States attorney in the Eastern District. There are my colleagues. These are my colleagues, Elizabeth Giddis, Nadia Shahada. They are also assistant United States attorneys. Special Agent Ryan Chabot of the Department of Homeland Security Investigations, and paralegal specialist Kyra Winton. I don't know why this keeps doing this. This is so frustrating, but I can read through it. I'm not going to play with them. I'm not. Together, we represent the United States in this case during the course. Hold on, let me see if this is going to be like this on all these. Okay, it was just that page. Okay. During the course of this trial, you'll learn that the defendant has surrounded himself with a team of people that made up of dedicated employees and close associates. These people form the defendant's inner circle. Now, over a period of decades, the members of the defendant's inner circle changed. But at any given point, all of these people had this in common. Their purpose was to promote the defendant's music and brand, that is his public persona as R. Kelly, and to fulfill each and every one of the defendant's wishes and demands. They served him. They were loyal to him. And you will learn that the defendant used that inner circle as his means to a criminal end. Now, in the early 90s, the defendant was an up-and-coming recording artist in the R&B industry known as R.Kelly. As his success and popularity grew, he put out multiple records and toured around the country. He performed alongside other well-known artists and eventually began headlining his own concerts. And as part of his career, he also began writing and producing music for both new and establishing artists. What this success and popularity brought him was access to girls, boys, and young women attending his concerts, access to young aspiring artists who hoped for a chance to work with him, and access to fans who looked up to the defendant and jumped at the chance to meet him or just to be around him. And the defendant quickly learned that he could take advantage of his access. Now, and he did at his concerts and other locations like the mall or the local McDonald's. The defendant had his pick. He had his pick of young fans in the cities around the country eager to meet him, to get his autograph or a picture. And when he found a girl, boy, or young woman he liked, he either approached them himself or had one of the members of his inner circle do it for him. They were given backstage passes or invitations to after parties in a number where they could reach the defendant. Or he got their contact information. And once they communicated via phone or text message, he invited them to visit him at his home or at his studio or to travel to see him at other performances. Now, he directed his employees to arrange and pay for their travel so that they could come and see him. And when he had them alone with him, he used them to exert power over them, to dominate and control them physically, sexually, and psychologically. And let's be very clear, ladies and gentlemen, this case is not about a celebrity who likes to party a lot or about the defendant's own private, like a lot of people like to say, his own private sexual preference. Yeah, no. The real issue here, the reason that we're here today is because, as the government will prove during this trial, the sexual conduct issued in this case was illegal. Let me rewind. This case is not about a celebrity who likes to party a lot or about the defendant's own private sexual preference. The real issue here, the reason that we're here today is because, as the government will prove during this trial, the sexual conduct issue in this case was illegal. It was illegal. It was illegal. It was illegal. It was illegal because in many situations, the defendant engaged in sex with minors, boys, and girls under the age of 18, some even in their very early teens. And when he was having sex with these minors, he often recorded it using video cameras, iPads, or smartphones to produce child pornography for the people in the back. Okay. He also transported some of these girls and women across state lines and sexually fondled them while they were not able to consent and expose them without their consent to an incurable sexual transmitted disease. Herpes. An STD or a venereal disease, genital herpes, an STD that he knew for years that he had and was being treated for. And as the government will prove during this trial, he was not able to do these things unchecked for multiple decades on his own without help. See, the defendant created this persona, R.Kelly, and he was at the center of it all. And he surrounded himself with people all at his disposal and his studios and on the road when he was on tour. People like his managers, his personal assistants, bodyguards, drivers, runners. Those are people who ran errands and answered phones. Lawyers, accountants, and even unpaid members of his inner circles. Yeah, but he didn't just use these people to help him with his music career. Oh, no. He created and relied on this inner circle to facilitate and to help him cover up his very crimes. For example, he directed members of his inner circle to approach young women and young men on his behalf when he wanted to meet them. The defendant had employees and associates give out his phone number to young people that he targeted. He instructed his assistants to book the travel of his victims. He instructed his assistants to book the travel of his victims, including minors, all over the country to see him. He used these drivers, bodyguards, assistants, and runners to keep watch over his victims and carry out the orders that he used to control them. And to try to ensure that his illegal conduct didn't ever see the light of day, he used his accountants and lawyers to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars of hush money to people he thought might go public or go to the authorities. They did all of these things, often without question, at the direction of the defendant. And as you'll hear, Sometimes they did these things out of fear of him. Relying on his inner circle, the defendant engaged in criminal conduct over and 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 over again. Throughout the country over the course of almost 30 years. And as time passed and the defendant committed these crimes without repercussion, his conduct became more and more egregious. Yeah, he began collecting girls and women as if they were things, hoarding them like objects that he could use however he liked. You see, he'd have them visit him, and eventually he'd have some of them stay with him at his home or at his studio or on the road with him in his tour bus or his Mercedes Sprinter van when he traveled for concerts. Yeah, also that he could have access to them for his sexual and other needs whenever he pleased. Now, the defendant maintained control over these victims using every trick in the predator handbook. First, he targeted minors and vulnerable young adults, picking them out himself or directing members of his inner circle to find them for him. He then got to work grooming them, which you will learn is when someone works to build a relationship of trust. Yeah, it's an emotional connection with a vulnerable person. Yeah, like a minor, so that he can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. In many cases, when the defendant first met them, he would even groom their family members. Oh, yeah. Where's the parents? The parents. Getting groomed. Integrating himself with their family or their friends. Sometimes he promised to mentor their careers in the music or in the entertainment business, but then after quickly reeling them in, he isolated them. He isolated these victims from their friends and their family, convincing some of them to spend long stretches of time with him or even move in with him. And as soon as he had these girls and women under his thumb, he instituted a long list of rules that they were required to follow. Rules like he made them call him daddy. He told them never to speak or even look at another man, but instead to keep their heads down if any other man were in the room. He instructed many of them to wear baggy clothing when they were accompanying him to an event or unless he told them otherwise. He instructed that they needed to come to him before doing anything, causing them to spend hours on end waiting for the defendant to approve some of the most basic of requests. Requests like permission to leave, to go to the bathroom, and leading them to, in some cases, urinate in a cup rather than violate one of his rules. He required them to engage in sex at his direction with whomever and whenever he decided, and he recorded most of these sexual encounters. And above all these, he demanded absolute obedience. And if they didn't follow his rules, if they messed up in some way in his eyes, the defendant made sure that there were consequences. He exacted cruel and demeaning punishments. Sometimes he confined them to a room for days. He physically assaulted them, delivering violent spankings and beatings. And these rules, these punishments, they kept his victims compliant. But the defendant also did what he could to cover his tracks, just in case someone did actually decide to speak out or to, for example, go to the police. As insurance, as a way to make sure that these girls and women felt that they could never, ever tell anyone about what he was doing, he created and kept collateral on them. He directed them to write letters containing false and sensitive information about themselves, or had them create embarrassing and degrading videos that he could lord over them if any of them crossed him. Now, he photographed and filmed them naked and engaging in sex with him and others as he directed, and he kept this stash of sex videos and photos not just for his own use, but always at the ready if he needed to protect himself by threatening their exposure. And if he couldn't use one of those methods to keep them quiet, he entered into secret settlement agreements, paying victims off so that his criminal conduct wouldn't become public. That's the man who sits here before you. That is how he, with the help of his inner circle, operated. Yeah, I want to talk to you now about the experiences of six of the defendants' victims, and tell you about some of the specific illegal acts that he committed with respect to these victims. First, I want to tell you about Aaliyah. Aaliyah met the defendant in approximately 1992 when she was about 12 years old. Yeah, Aaliyah had a gift. She was a talented singer, and people thought that she could make it far in the industry. So the defendant began to produce and write music for Aaliyah when she was still a child. And shortly after he began working with her, the defendant began to engage in sexual activity with her. And for years, while Aaliyah was a minor, too young to even consent to sex, he continued to engage in sexual activity with her that last 7 years. One night in 1994, while the defendant was on tour, he got some news about Aaliyah. Yeah, she thought that she was pregnant. Yeah, this, of course, was a huge problem for him. Why? Because at the time, Aaliyah was only 15 years old. And if she was pregnant, that meant that there would be questions. A lot of questions. At the very top of that list of questions would be, who is the father of that baby? So the defendant and his circle came up with a plan. Yeah, a plan that the defendant thought would keep Aaliyah from talking, and a plan that would keep him out of jail if anyone found out. Yeah, his plan, the defendant decided that he needed to marry Aaliyah. Yeah. That way, as far as he understood with his little puny brain, if anyone found out about the pregnancy, about his sexual activity with her, Aaliyah could not talk. Yeah, in other words, if she's his wife, then she can't testify against him, or so he thought. Now, as I said, the defendant is on tour at the time and about to go on stage for a concert. In fact, he's got other appearance dates as part of this tour over the next few days. But he's got to get this done and fast. So he flew home to Chicago in the middle of the night with a few of his most trusted friends and employees. When they land, Aaliyah was waiting for the defendant at a hotel airport. Excuse me. At an airport near the hotel. And the defendant and his crew got to work. Yes, see, Aaliyah went to a hotel and they had a meeting there. And they got to work gathering what they needed to make this marriage happen. Yeah, see, but there was a problem. Aaliyah was 15 and she needed an ID. Showing that she was over the age of 18. She needed that in order to get the marriage license. So, the defendant and his tour manager decided to bribe someone that the manager knew at a local public assistance office, who would give Aaliyah a fake ID that she could use to get the marriage license. And that's exactly what they did. The defendant, Aaliyah, and his tour manager drove to the public aid office. Aaliyah and the tour manager went inside. The tour manager paid one of the employees at the public aid office about $500. And they walked out with a fake ID for Aaliyah. Now, they made a few phone calls and lined up a minister to officiate the wedding. And in the hotel suite, the defendant, a 27-year-old man, married Aaliyah, a 15-year-old girl. And with that taken care of, the defendant flew back to where he had begun to finish his concert tour. Sidebar, we're going to skip. Next, I want to tell you about Stephanie. When Stephanie was only 16 years old, she saw the defendant while she was at a local well-known McDonald's, known as the Rock and Roll McDonald's. Now, she was there with her boyfriend and some high school friends when the defendant eyed her. When Stephanie went up to the counter, the defendant sent one of his associates over to her, who gave her a piece of paper with the defendant's telephone number written on it. And he told her that the defendant wanted Stephanie to call him. She told the associate that she was only 16 years old, and the defendant's associate said, "That's okay." Stephanie ultimately decided not to call the defendant, but about a year later, in 1999, when Stephanie was now 17 years old, she heard that the defendant was making an appearance at a Nike store close to her summer job where she was working as a barista. She went to see him because she wanted to tell him about a friend of hers who was an aspiring singer. The defendant told Stephanie that he remembered her. She asked the defendant whether he would be willing to meet with her friend to hear her sing. The defendant agreed to see Stephanie's friend, but said he wanted to meet up with Stephanie first. And again, He gave Stephanie his telephone number. Stephanie was only 17 years old at the time. The defendant was 32. Just a week later, or two, the defendant began having sex with Stephanie regularly for approximately 6 to 8 months. Now, Stephanie's friend eventually did sing for the singer at his studio, but he wasn't interested in that. No. What he was interested in, what he wanted was to continue having sex with Stephanie. He'd have Stephanie come over to his studio to meet him, where she would wait in one of the rooms there for hours. And whenever he was ready, he would go into the room where she was waiting and he'd have sex with her. Or he paid for her to travel out of state to meet him so that she could have sex with him. He told her to call him daddy and became controlling, directing her not to even speak or look at other men, making her afraid of consequences if she did not do everything that he instructed her to do. On one occasion, while Stephanie was still a minor, the defendant told her he was picking her up from the studio where she had been waiting for him to bring her to his home to make a movie. Once they arrived, the defendant used a video camera to record a VHS tape of Stephanie having intercourse with him. Next, I want to talk to you about Sonia. Now, Sonia met the defendant outside of a mall in Salt Lake City, Utah, in 2003, when she was 22 years old. Sonia was an intern at a radio station and heard that the defendant was at the mall. So she headed over there with a friend, thinking that it would be great for her position as a radio station intern, so that she could get an interview with the defendant while he was still in town. When she got there, the defendant didn't give her an interview. No. But he or one of his associates did slip Sonia the defendant's number. Still hoping to land the interview with the defendant, Sonia called the number to see if she could set up a meeting with him. After some time and several calls later, the defendant invited Sonia to his studio in Chicago. One of the defendant's employees arranged her travel, and she flew to Chicago to meet with the defendant in the hopes of getting that interview. Now, when she arrived at the studio, it was nothing like she expected. No, one of the defendant's employees asked her if she needed condoms. Taken aback by the question, she said no, that she wasn't there for anything like that. Now, one of the defendant's employees then escorted her to a small room, went through her luggage and phone, made copies of her ID, told her to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and left. Alone in the room, she soon discovered that the door was locked, and despite her knocks on the door and calls to the front desk, no one let her out to leave. Sonia spent approximately 3 days in that room, pleading to be let out, to go home, to get some food, to be able to go to the bathroom. But what she heard from the defendant's various employees that were enforcing his instructions was that they needed authorization from the defendant first to let her leave the room. The few times that she was actually allowed to leave the room to use the bathroom, she was generally escorted by one of the defendant's employees. Days went by, and finally one of the defendant's employees brought Sonia some cold Chinese food and a Coke. After taking a few bites and drinking the soda, her eyes grew heavy, and she fell immediately to sleep. Sonia woke up to find her underwear had been taken off and felt a wetness between her legs that made it clear to her that she had been sexually abused in some way while she was not conscious. She also saw the defendant in the corner of the room doing up his pants, confused. She stood up to speak with him. He grabbed her backside, pulled her towards him, and said he had to go, and then left. That was the first and only time that Sonia saw the defendant on that trip. Only then did one of the defendant's employees come and say that they would let her leave, but not before telling her that she could never speak out about what happened there to anyone, and taking a list of people, including her grandmother's name, who were close to her. All of this she took as a terrifying threat. Keep quiet or else. Now, I want to tell you about Geronda. Geronda first met the defendant in 2009 when she was only 16 years old at a party at the defendant's house. In 2009, the defendant was 42. Give me a second, you guys. I'm going to take a drink and continue this. What up, you guys? Whitney D here with Whitney D, and we have merch! Geronda was a huge fan of the defendant's music, and when she met him at the party, she naturally was excited to be talking to him. And while they were talking, she told the defendant that she was 19, which wasn't true. On that night, she had the defendant exchange phone numbers, and just a few days later, the defendant invited, hold on, y'all, short of breath, hold on, whew. Okay. Got lightheaded. Sorry, y'all. And just a few days later, the defendant invited Geronda over to his house. And when she got there after some conversation and told him that she was a virgin, he told her that he wanted to train her, to teach her how to give oral sex. And that's how it started with oral sex. Soon after, the defendant and Geronda had sexual intercourse. Now, shortly after the defendant began having sex with Geronda, Geronda told the defendant her true age. She told him that she was actually 16 years old. She even showed him her ID. She even showed him her ID card. She told him that she was actually 16 years old. And what did the defendant do? He didn't ask her to leave. No, see, yeah, he didn't say, oh, girl, you're trying to trap a brother. Why you trying to take a black man down? You told me you was 19, girl. No. He didn't ask her to leave. He didn't say, we can't see each other because you're a minor, because you're 16 years old. He shrugged it off. He asked her, what's that supposed to mean? and instructed her to just continue to tell people that she was 19. Okay. And for the next 6 months or so, the defendant continued to have sex with Geronda, a 16-year-old girl too young to consent to sexual regular sex regularly for the better part of the year. At times, he video recorded sex with Geronda using a video camera or an iPhone. The defendant also became controlling, making her follow a list of rules, and he became violent with her. At one point, the defendant even instructed Geronda to write and sign a letter that he could keep an insurance policy of sorts, containing false information saying that she worked for him, that she had stolen money and jewelry from him, and that her parents told her to get close to the defendant. Yeah, on one occasion, one of the several times that the defendant became angry, angry with Geronda, he slapped her. Yeah, choked her, and threatened that the next time it would be even worse. And then the defendant, while Geronda was shaken and upset from the beating, made her give him oral sex. That was the last day that Geronda was with the defendant, after collecting that beautiful specimen of DNA on that shirt. Okay. Oh, Lord, we finna get on Azrael. I'm going to try to compose myself. Okay. Okay. I'd like to talk to you now about Zelle. Zelle first met the defendant when she was 17 years old in 2015. He was 48. She had gone to one of the defendant's concerts with her mom and dad, and during the show, one of the defendant's associates gave her a wristband so she could come up and stand near the front of the stage. Now, during some songs directly at her, and then one of the associates gave her his number and told her not to say anything to anyone. Yeah, after the concert, Zelle began to communicate with the defendant. Now, Zelle initially told the defendant that she was 18. She was a serious singer, performing in choirs and even doing some paid gigs. She thought maybe the defendant could help her with her career. The defendant told Zelle that she should come and audition for him, thinking that this could be her big opportunity. Zelle headed to meet the defendant one day after her school extracurriculars. He told her to swing by the hotel where he was staying. So she met him on his Mercedes Sprinter van, and that was parked outside the hotel. Once there, he asked her to sit on his lap and give him a kiss. She was unsure, but she did what he asked. The defendant then asked her to meet him upstairs in the hotel room. She did. When they were alone in the room, Zelle asked if it was time for her to audition. The defendant told her before he could hear her sing, he needed to relieve himself. It was clear what he meant. He wanted to relieve himself sexually. Not wanting to do anything with the defendant. Zelle tried to politely decline. None of it fazed him. See, he continued to hound her for some form of sex, telling her that he wanted to perform oral sex on her. Yeah. And that if she lets him, he'll take care of her for the rest of her life. Finally, reluctantly, she let him. Eventually, she got to sing for the defendant. After that, the defendant spoke with Zelle and he invited her to travel to various shows around the country where he was performing, or to visit him at his home in Chicago, directing members of his inner circle to arrange travel for her. During these trips, the defendant continued to engage in sex with her, video recording the sex most of the time. Still, the defendant talked to her parents. Still, the defendant talked to her parents about how important it was for Zelle to practice and learn the business, and telling them that he could help her with her career. And under the guise of mentoring her, telling Zelle that she was going to be the next Aaliyah, he invited her to travel with him while he was on tour, all the while continuing to have sex with her. After spending all summer with the defendant on tour, when the time came for Zelle to start her senior year in high school, she told him she was in fact 17 years old. Did he end it? No. No. He suggested that she do her senior year remotely. Yeah. And live with him full time. He sent her back. Why did she come back? He didn't send her back. He had her go prepare for the transition. But I digress. He continued to have sex with her in various locations. Hey, honey. I got you something. Hold on, y'all. Y'all know when my husband come in here, it shuts down. I'm sorry. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. And the defendant not only had sex with Zelle when she was a minor, but he also exposed her to an STD, genital herpes. Herpes. Okay. Years earlier, the defendant was diagnosed with his doctor with herpes, an incurable STD. His doctor told him that he had the disease and that he needed to disclose that fact to his sexual partners, period, poo, and to protect and practice safe sex. But the defendant never told Zelle that he had herpes. No. As you will learn during trial, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, this is a crime in both New York and California. Can't be going around here passing these cooties. Two of the places that the defendant had sex with Zelle. And as you will learn, herpes is an incurable disease that can cause serious and permanent bodily injury. Yes, if you aren't aware of it. And if you know you have it, and the defendant was well aware that he did, the law, y'all hear that? The law. So you people out there that got it, and you just acting as if it don't exist, that's illegal. And this is one of the reasons why this man got what he got. You can't do that. even if she was of age. Can't do that. The law requires that you disclose that fact to your sexual partners so that they can consent to having sex under those circumstances. But the defendant never did. Hey, Boko. Over the next 5 years, Zelle traveled and lived with the defendant. And throughout the defendant sexually, physically, and psychologically abused Zelle. As with other girls before her and after her, the defendant subjected Zelle to his strict rules, instructing her to call him daddy and prohibiting her from doing even the most basic of things without his authorization. And as he did with other girls and women, he targeted. He punished her severely when she broke his rules, giving her violent beatings that he called chastisements to teach her how to behave and how to follow his rules. For some time, these chastisements happened every day. Sometimes the defendant forced her to have sex with a man, that she had never met before as punishment for breaking one of these rules. See, that's prostitution. For those idiots, y'all didn't comprehend the laws and the rules and regulations and stuff that he broke. You basically selling her off to something. And how is it prostitution? Because he bought her titties. Oh, y'all remember that? The stuff that y'all kept playing around with? That's a form of a gift. She didn't pay for it. He did. So all these gifts and stuff like that, and then he's having them give their body off to somebody else, that's form of prostitution. Y'all need to idiots. Let me continue. On multiple occasions, he confined her to rooms for days without letting her leave. I like now to talk to you about Faith. Faith met the defendant in 2017. Backstage after one of the defendant's concerts in San Antonio, Texas. Faith was 19. The defendant was 50. Two of the defendant's associates approached Faith after the concert and gave her and her half-sister wristbands to go backstage for a meet and greet after party. When Faith got backstage, there was a party of about 30 people, and everyone at the party except for the defendant's employees were women. After watching her dance, the defendant approached Faith and handed her his number, told her to take it, but not to tell anyone that he had given it to her. Faith called the number, and the defendant and she began communicating. Her and the defendant began communicating. Within a week, the defendant told Faith that he loved her, invited her to come see him, and told her that she could contact one of his employees to make her travel arrangements. Now, eventually at the defendant's invitation and completely on his dime, Faith began traveling to various locations around the country to see the defendant, and he began a sexual relationship with her, sometimes recording the sexual activity on an iPad. On one of these occasions, when the defendant had one of his employees arrange travel for Faith to come and see him, the defendant brought Faith into a small room, and he told her to take off her clothes. In that room, in her view, right by the defendant was a gun, which the defendant placed nearby. He then began to ask her a series of questions, and told her that there would be consequences if she lied. Scared by the situation, believing that she could not leave even if she wanted to, Faith did what the defendant asked her to do, including when he directed her to give him oral sex. Now, when she traveled to see the defendant, including in New York, as was his practice, he engaged in unprotected sexual intercourse with her, never disclosing the fact that he had previously been diagnosed with herpes. And when Faith sued him for exposing her to herpes, the defendant and others on his behalf threatened to expose compromising photos and videos of her that he had in his possession if she didn't cease her lawsuit or stop speaking publicly about the defendant. For all of this conduct, the defendant is charged in a federal indictment with multiple crimes. First, he is charged with racketeering. You're going to learn more details about what racketeering is at a later point in the trial from Judge Donnelly. But what it essentially means, okay, for the people in the back, is that the defendant is charged with committing a pattern of multiple crimes spanning almost 3 decades as the leader of an enterprise. An enterprise which you will learn more about, as well as another word for a group of people working together to carry out a certain purpose. Of people here, the defendant and his inner circle together, with the defendant at the center of all of that, they form the charged enterprise. Now, the racketeering activity that the defendant is having charged with, committed by using his inner circle, includes conduct related to the 6 victims I told you about earlier. When I described to you some of the experiences of the 6 victims, I explained that some of the victims, like Aaliyah, Stephanie, Geronda, and Zelle, were minors when the defendant began having sex with them. The charged racketeering activity related to those victims, including bribery, sexual exploitation of children by producing child pornography, forced labor, and illegal transportation, coercion, and enticement of minors for the purpose of engaging in illegal sexual activity, including sex with minors, and illegal failing to disclose his herpes to his sexual partner before having unprotected sexual intercourse. Now, some of the other victims, like Sonia and Faith, were over the age of 18. The charged racketeering activity, however, relates to them includes kidnapping, forced labor, and illegal transportation, coercion, and enticement of these individuals for the purpose of engaging in illegal sexual activity, including aggravated sexual abuse, and illegally failing to disclose his herpes to a sexual partner before having unprotected sexual intercourse. The defendant is also charged with 8 other separate crimes related to the defendant's transportation, coercion, and enticement of Zelle. And many people ask, like, who was Zelle? It was Azriel. This fool couldn't pronunciate Azriel, so he called her Zelle. That's a fun fact if you didn't know, and I heard that direct from the source. Mm-hmm. And enticement of Zelle for the purpose of engaging in sex with her while she was a minor, as well as transportation, coercion, and enticement of Faith to engage in unprotected sexual intercourse with her without first disclosing to her that he had contracted herpes. Now, during the course of the trial over the next few weeks, the government's going to present evidence to you that will prove these charges beyond a reasonable doubt. So how will we prove these charges to you? What is the evidence? First, you're going to hear from many of the defendant's victims themselves, who will tell you the many different ways the defendant exploited them. You will also hear testimony from various former members and associates of the defendant's inner circle, people who worked for the defendant, such as his personal assistants, managers, and runners, as well as people who were his close associates. Going back all the way to the 1990s and as recent as 2018. People who the defendant used to facilitate his crimes, for example, by directing them to arrange travel for his victims throughout the United States, including right here in the Eastern District of New York, and using them to enforce the defendant's instructions that he used to control almost every move of his victims. You're going to hear from expert witnesses, including a clinical and forensic psychiatrist. She will testify about the methods used by predators to target and groom vulnerable people like minors and young men and women. She will also testify about the effects of violence in relationships and the associated trauma with these relationships. She will explain why victims often stay with their abusers and delay reporting acts of abuse and violence to law enforcement. You will also hear from experts who will tell you that the defendant's DNA was found in semen recovered from a t-shirt by one of the victims when she was just 16 years old. In addition, you will hear evidence such as official documents like birth certificates for the victims and the documents proving that the defendant did marry Aaliyah when she was just 15 years old. Text messages showing that the defendant demanded total obedience, that he had members of his inner circle stand guard over his victims when they were on punishment. Telephone records showing contact between the defendant and his victims, including while they were minors. You're going to see travel records that show the victims traveling to locations around the country to see the defendant, medical and prescription records regarding his treatment for the disease that will be explained during the testimony of the defendant's primary care physician regarding the defendant's herpes diagnosis. You're also going to see the physical evidence obtained by law enforcement from searches done. Okay, y'all heard that right? Physical evidence that was obtained. Search warrants authorized by a judge, the defendant's own apartment and storage facility. For example, you'll see decades old paper, phone messages, recording calls from his victims. You'll see video. You'll see video and audio recordings that the defendant made himself. Or instructed victims to make, that show the type of control that the defendant had over his victims and the demanding punishment he forced them to perform if they broke his rules. Some of these recordings may be difficult to listen to and to watch, but we will be presenting this evidence to you to prove the defendant's pattern of illegal sexual, physical, and psychological abuse. You are also going to see letters the defendant kept containing false, and embarrassing information which the defendant directed his victims and others to write so that he could have them in his back pocket in case anyone attempted to accuse him of wrongdoing. You will also see records such as settlement agreements showing that the defendant tried to pay millions of dollars to keep his victims silent. Victims after victims, exhibit after exhibit, you have the chance to hear and see all of the government's evidence. Now, because of the nature of the trial, some of the evidence may be presented to you in a way that's not always in complete chronological order, but by the end of the presentation of the evidence, you will see how all the government's evidence fits together to prove each and every one of the charges in this case. Yes, and after we present all of this evidence to you, after you heard from the witnesses and seen all the exhibits, the government is going to have an opportunity to come before you again and review all of that evidence with you. And at that time, we're going to ask you to hold the defendant accountable. Yeah, accountable for years of engaging in sex with minors, creating child pornography, and otherwise sexually abusing girls, boys, and young women. Accountable for using bribery, lies, fear, and extortionate tactics to keep his victims and other potential witnesses silent. We will ask you to reach the only verdict that is consistent with all of that evidence. And that is a verdict of guilty of all charges. Thank you. All right, you guys, that concludes the opening remarks of the defense. We are going to continue with the remarks of prosecution. Well, actually, I think that was the prosecution. Yeah, that actually was the prosecution opening, not the defense, because they're prosecuting them. So I got to change that title. But yes, you guys, we're going to stop there with those opening remarks. And like I said, you guys, we are day 80 of the sentencing. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it here. I am going to see you guys next week. Look out for the pre-scheduling of the next episode of this series. We are going to cover each and every transcript that crossed that courtroom floor. I guarantee you, okay? So if you are looking to catch yourself up to get updated with this trial before May 4th comes and we receive that sentencing, then this is where you want to be, okay? I am so grateful for you guys coming in on this Saturday evening and listening in on all this repeated information. And you guys can actually find this, the whole transcript in its entirety in my playlist, the R.Kelly trial and updates, okay? And you can just catch yourself up. Like I said, I'm going to pull out highlights because otherwise we're going to be all year trying to read all these transcripts and what transpired, okay? So not for nothing, I thank you guys so very much for tuning in to the road to sentencing for R.Kelly. Thank you guys so very much. And continue to be evidence over emotions all day, okay? I love you guys and have a safe and wonderful weekend, okay? All right.
What up, Witness Nation? Now, you know we're super sleuths over here. We all about the facts. Evidence over emotions. Let's see what we've discovered. What up, what up? Hey, lovelies. We are now on Apple Podcasts. Yes. For my iPhone users, just a little something for you. Head over to the Apple Podcast app and type in Whitney DTV in the search bar and click the check to add me to your dashboard and listen to your girl on the go. Powered by Anchor FM by way of Spotify. I'm Whitney. Keep it cute, but get some boo.